I had never
Yeah.
done drag before I wrote Chrissy Judy, so that was also a really fun deep dive into like figuring out that world and learning more about it and taking work as a drag queen to, make sure that what I was writing was accurate to the experience of the culture.
There just must have been so many bottomless brunches and other events that you had to do for your art, right? Like you are just suffering for your art.
Yes, exactly.
Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watch Your Pass. Today I'm talking to Todd Flaherty, the writer, director, and star of Chrissy Judy, which has a wide theatrical release on April 7, 2023 and comes to DVD and digital on April 11, 2023. I'm going to talk to him right now. While you're watching, if you can like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. It helps me out a lot. Thank you. Awesome. So thanks so much for joining me. This is Todd Flaherty, the writer, director, and star of Chrissy Judy, which has a wide theatrical release on April 7, 2023 and it's coming to DVD and digital on April 11, 2023. It is a wonderful coming of age story that is just has this fantastic style, a lot of drama, and an amazing performance in all aspects by you, Todd. It's a fantastic film, and thank you so much for joining me.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Of course, of course. So the first question, you wore all the hats, so we'll start with the writer part of it. Where did
Okay.
this story come from? Is it I don't know, somewhat autobiographical? Like where did it all come from?
Yeah, so I hesitate to say that the film's autobiographical because I'm by no means a Judy in real life. But they do say write what you know. So I started writing this in 2018 when I left my home of New York City. That was my home for like about 13 years to move to Philadelphia to pursue a romantic relationship. So
Oh.
that's kind of where the idea of Chrissy's character came from. And I think, just throughout my 20s, I had a few really formative relationships that I wanted to capture on screen in a way that I hadn't seen before. And just really like delve into how important these platonic queer friendships are in
Mhm.
our growth as queer people. And that was really the starting point. And then the rest is, I mean, pretty much all of it is fictional, but of course it's all drawn from real life inspiration. I always joke that, and I say, I lead a very boring life, but I keep friends who have very exciting lives, and they know not to be surprised if any of the stories that they tell me end up on screen.
I mean that's a fantastic well to draw from.
Yeah, exactly.
And so did any of your friends after they've seen the movie, do they like recognize the stories or maybe recognize characters that were inspired by them?
Maybe here and there, like I said, it's all fictional. So maybe like a moment here or there could be drawn from one specific person, but it's just an accumulation of just all of these wonderful people in my life and my own personal experiences. Yeah.
For sure. And I love that I get sounds like your experience was the Chrissy one, but then you played Judy, the outgoing, unabashedly youthful like character.
Messy.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's an interesting. I like that you challenged yourself for that. Or I don't know, maybe it wasn't a challenge. Maybe that's just kind of like you.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
definitely a challenge. I think when I was writing it, I guess initially more of my focus was centered around Chrissy, and then I really thought about it. I was like, well, I think the more fun character to follow is this one who's unraveling a little bit,
Mhm.
and still, it also like following Judy's character allowed me to talk about or explore these ideas of like how difficult it is for queer people to make art for queer people.
Mhm.
And I think, exploring the life of a drag queen who's trying to do that was for me the best way to kind of like tell my story as an artist without writing about, a writer or an actor. So I had never
Yeah.
done drag before I wrote Chrissy Judy, so that was also a really fun deep dive into like figuring out that world and learning more about it and taking work as a drag queen to, make sure that what I was writing was accurate to the experience of the culture.
There just must have been so many bottomless brunches and other events that you had to do for your art, right? Like you are just suffering for your art.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, no, I think that's right. Like there are plenty of stories about struggling writers and people trying to like make a movie and make the art, but there are fewer stories about drag queens, and especially ones that are like kind of this intimate and this like unabashedly, I don't know, honest. If it's a, I love how there's like Judy's character loves her life, but then also kind of everyone else recognizes that maybe there's something missing, and maybe, you know, there are things in her life that could change, should change if she wants to. And I just kind of love that this you get to follow that whole arc. And I think that I do agree that it's probably more interesting to follow Judy than Chrissy, who like goes to Philadelphia and starts a happy relationship and, you know,
Yeah.
lives in the burbs.
And I'm sure that there could be a whole other story that deals with the struggles of that transition. But yeah, we follow Judy on this round.
That's for the second movie, where Judy
Yeah,
now has settled down and hates it, and then now starts to unravel a different way.
exactly, exactly.
And I do love that you mentioned, you know, that you wanted a movie that like showcased, you know, supportive queer culture. I think you mentioned like, you know, supportive queer relationships, because I love that also. Like, you can tell that Chrissy and Judy are just, they're super close. They're like, they're their people. And even though Chrissy's in a romantic relationship, they can still be close. They can have intimate moments, and it's not, it's just part of their supportive kind of friendship. And I loved seeing
Mm,
that. Like, I think I wrote partway through, I was like, you know, in most other movies, you would think that there would be some sort of like drama here, like some sort of love triangle or something that would happen. But this one,
mm.
you had these two people that were, you know, in love with each other, but in a supportive, you know, friendship
Yeah, in a
life
platonic
kind of
kind of
way. Yeah,
way.
exactly. And I
Yeah,
love seeing
which
kind of that.
yeah, which we don't really honor so much in our culture. I think like we place a lot of value on romantic partnership, and I think that's
Mhm.
another thing that I love that the film does is it, you know, like gives us a lens into this world where the value is placed on a platonic partnership,
Mhm.
and how, you know, how equally detrimental that can be losing a platonic partner as it is losing a romantic partner.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes, you know, we value the platonic relationship kind of to a fault, right? That is like the
Mm.
rock, and everything else has to sacrifice, which is kind of part of this movie. Like, part of the themes in this movie is Chrissy goes to pursue that relationship, and it kind of hurts his friend, her friendship with Judy. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. I know.
Okay.
I use varying pronouns depending on how I see them in my mind, but
Okay.
yeah.
I guess probably Philadelphia Chrissy's probably he, and then New
Yeah,
York Chrissy's probably her. We'll go with
yeah.
that.
Sure. I like that delineation. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
So, what other thing that instantly strikes you about this film, other than the drag, which I think is, you know, that is a centerpiece, the black and white filming. I love that look. It definitely kind of instantly makes this strangely pop from other movies, right? Like, it pops because it's not in color. So, you know, what was the consideration behind that? Did you try it in color and then go in black and white, or how did you arrive at that style?
You know, when I first started writing, I knew I wanted it to be in black and white. I think that there's just something like inherently romantic about black and white films that I really wanted to juxtapose with this story of a friendship. And I also think that there's something really timeless about the story of queer friendship that we don't often see. And I wanted to add to that element of timelessness of the story. You know, despite like the use of cell phones and some chatter of like, you know, Instagram and social media, we really don't cement the film in any particular time period. We don't talk about politics or any pop culture.
Mhm.
And so my hope is that, you know, people can watch this 10, 20 years from now and not really get a clear sense of when it was made. Um, I reference Andrew Holleran's book, Dancer from the Dance, in the film. And it's this great book from the late 70s about these two men who are, you know, gay and best friends. And I don't know when I was reading that in my early 20s and discovered it, I felt like I was reading something that had just been written. And
Mhm.
so I think I was just hoping to kind of like capture the essence of that. Um, and I think the black and white, you know, leans into that sort of timelessness. And
Yeah,
I
for
also
sure.
think it's you know, our culture is all about the rainbow, and drag especially is so much about color and glitter and you know, all of that glory. And I love the idea of like really stripping that away so that we see the layers of the mask of this person who is finding their most authentic voice behind all of this makeup and wigs and jewelry, and so I think the black and white really like lends to that as well.
Yeah, for sure. Without kind of the flash of the color, you really focus on the drama and the personal relationships that are kind of the crux of this movie, which I love.
Mhm. Yeah, thanks.
And I do love, yeah, I do like the timeless aspect of it as well, because some of my favorite movies. One of my favorite movie of all time is Gattaca, and that's one of the movies that you can just like. It's future, but they don't really kind of like lean into that. It feels like very
Mm.
low tech, and so I can watch it now, and it still feels like a timely movie that is relevant. And so this movie, I imagine, will be the same in 10, 20 years. When we're all assuming that we're still here, assuming the Earth is around.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's something that people can watch and just still love the characters and love the situations and not worry too much about the time period.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Now I imagine when you are filming a film that you are going to put in black and white, there are definitely some considerations that happen. Like there was like a restaurant scene where your character and someone else were wearing like black shirts with a black tie. I was like, that is a very kind of crisp shot right there. I imagine that was probably planned. Like, were there other things that you had to plan to kind of make sure that your film still popped, even though it's now in black and white?
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges was we shot this on a micro budget, so it was a crew of three people, which is myself, my brother, who was our cinematographer, and his wife, who was our sound mixer.
Oh wow.
And so we were really, so much of the artistic decisions, thankfully, were left up to us. Um, and yeah, shooting in black and white really did we had to be very careful about like, costume choices and what people were wearing and exactly what our locations looked like. And our biggest issue in shooting black and white was that we weren't working with a lighting kit. So everything that you see on screen is either shot by natural light or whatever lighting we found in the locations that we were working in.
Oh wow.
So yeah, sometimes we lucked out. Other times we were like, oh, Chrissy can't wear a gray shirt here because he's getting totally washed out. So, there were some last minute costume changes after we started shooting and we're looking at like, our playback. So
Just like camouflaging into the wall.
exactly. Yeah. We're
Yeah.
like, oh my God, we're getting washed out here. So
Yeah. That's interesting. So you like do a test shot and then be like, oh, we need to add some gray. Like I kind of what do
yes,
you
there
say?
were a lot of black and white photos taken on set prior to actual like setup of camera and shooting, just to make sure that we were working with the right color palettes and everything.
And the biggest issue I had was when Judy's character was texting with Chrissy. I think it was Chrissy. There were a
Mhm,
couple text scenes. I
mhm.
couldn't tell if the person had an iPhone or an Android. I know that's super important. Is that why do you secretly have an Android? Is that why you made it in black and white so you couldn't actually tell?
No, I actually haven't heard that yet. So that was totally just by chance. It was funny, I think we are such a texting culture that I felt like I had to incorporate that. And yeah, there are two scenes where we have like, the camera down on the phone. And I think like the black and white kind of saved us actually. I guess because you can't tell if they're iPhone or Android, but also there were a couple moments where, now when you send a message, there's a timestamp on it.
Oh.
And we had to go through some very clever editing to like carefully remove the timestamps on the screen. So like frame by frame, we had to block out the timestamps so it seemed more believable that it might be 2 in the morning when someone was sending this text rather than when we were actually shooting it at like 8 p.m. or something. So
Oh my gosh, you're breaking the movie magic right here.
I know, I know, I know. It's so dumb, but it's still one of the things that I'm most proud of. Like I've seen it on the big screen a couple times, and when I see that one scene and the text pop up, I'm like, you know, having edited the film and really like teaching myself as I went, I was like, I did a good job in that moment.
Yeah, no, that's because that is such an attention to detail that is super important and also must have been insanely tedious to go frame by frame and redo the same thing over
It
and
was,
over again.
but it was
Yeah.
worth it. Yes,
No,
it
it
was.
was.
It was worth it.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of some of the kind of like old aspects of this movie, the soundtrack was amazing. I love this like
Mm.
vaudeville type music that would play throughout. Like, how, who did your music, and was that in your head when you were filming this, or did you just kind of like make the film and then score it after the fact?
So it was a little bit of both. So my mother was an opera singer, and her father, my grandfather, was a jazz pianist. So I did always kind of grow up with this music, and I loved the idea of, again, continuing on with this like theme of like embracing the timelessness of the story, giving us a character who wanted to really embody this like bygone era. Um, Another thing that was convenient is a lot of the music that you hear is in the public domain.
I was
Um,
wondering about that,
so
especially on a micro budget.
yeah, so that really did help us a lot. The main song that was not in the public domain that Judy sings is "Remember Me," which is like an old Diana Ross song. But a lot of what we shot in terms of the drag performances, we would do two separate takes of
Oh.
two separate songs, not knowing which one we definitely had the rights for. So most of them were in the public domain, but then we had a couple other options. And ultimately, then beyond that, we were working with some different people, but our music supervisor really helped us in finding just the songs that felt the most authentic to the story. And I love how they evolve from start to finish, where they are sort of more like classically old jazz standards at the beginning that carry us through the storyline. And then as Judy is sort of ripped away from Chrissy, we get more like upbeat New York, grungy, more like club music.
Mhm.
And then as Judy evolves into his like, reborn self in Provincetown in the third act, we come back um, to the jazz standards. So that's like the evolution of the music. A lot of it was planned, but a lot of it was just sort of waiting to see what we could afford the rights to.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a lot of people. Music is always an issue. I mean, there's some
Yeah.
directors who I'll talk to, and they're like, "We didn't know if we were gonna get the rights," and then like a week before we were supposed to,
Mhm.
debut, I got an email from the person saying it was okay, and we worked it out. I was like, "Okay, God, I can't even imagine trying to like figure that out as you're
Oh yeah.
already wearing so many hats." So,
Yes, yeah, and really like wearing so many hats was just born out of necessity of the budget. I tell people all the time, I know it seems like I'm an egomaniac, but really it was just if we had the budget to bring on a producer and an editor and an AD and some more crew folk, I think it would have served us well. But I'm happy with what we created on such a small budget, and it's a good learning experience for me to kind of wear as many hats as I did. Now moving into future projects, I know what those people are going through, so I won't maybe be so harsh to set expectations from them that I
or you'll
put
be
on
the
myself.
or you'll be the old hat there. Be like, wow, back in my day, I wrote, directed,
Right.
and starred, and now you only have to do one of those.
Oh gosh.
I've talked to a lot of people that have done, triple hats, and it is always pretty universal. There was one person that said that they loved it, and everyone else is like, it was such a great learning experience. I'm glad that I did it. I never want to do it again. So
Hmm. I think that
just
I will continue to wear multiple hats. I don't think that I'll continue to wear as many hats as I did. So, but two or three is manageable when you have the right people around you. And I was really lucky to be working with my brother and such an incredible cast of people that, hopping back and forth between the camera, felt effortless when we were
yeah,
shooting.
for sure. And I do, the name of the film does, feel right. Chrissy Judy. That's a good kind of easy name to remember, but also gets the characters. Were there any alternate titles? I was thinking after like Judy Blooms would be a good title.
Um, I don't think there were any alternate titles. It was funny because as I was shopping the script around, a lot of people said, I don't really like the title because it implies that Chrissy will be around and then he's gone for such a long time and then he comes back. And I was like, well, I do think it's a catchy, memorable title, but also I think it speaks to who Judy is, which is like Judy identifies as like a unit, Chrissy Judy. So to put those two names together and then have the entire film mainly be about how Judy is figuring out how to, you know, successfully, um, you know, break off from
Yeah,
that.
find her voice, find like
Yeah.
who
So
she
yeah,
is
so
by
no,
herself. Yeah.
yeah, we didn't have any alternate titles, but I'm open to suggestion because I always think that's kind of a fun thing to play with. Yeah.
I like Judy Bloobs, but that's also
Okay.
um but you do get with the Chrissy Judy, you do get the benefit. So some indie directors I've talked to have said like what you want is like an early alphabet name, because then you're in the top of the list if people are just
Oh
scrolling down.
yeah.
And with Chrissy, you get the C. So there you
Yes, it has been good to us, that's for sure.
go. And you're right. It is a catchy, kind of like, I don't know, sexy title. I don't know if is that the right word.
Yeah, I
We'll
think
go with
people are
that.
like, what is that? What is it? What is it about?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Um, so now I'd like to switch. I call it the lightning round. They're just lightweight questions about the film. I want to see how
Great.
your personal experiences map to things in the film. You can feel free not to
Okay.
answer any of them. I will not be offended, but I try to keep them answerable.
Okay,
Uh,
great.
the first question, I think I probably know the answer to this. Speedos are fairly prominent in this movie. Do you have a Speedo?
I have a Speedo, yes.
Or is it a bikini bot? I don't know what you
I
would
would
call it.
say I would say Speedo, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, aside, you looked great in that. I mean, if
Oh,
I had
thank
that
you.
body, I would definitely make a movie too, just so I could like memorialize it and be like, "Bam, this is real."
Thank you. I appreciate it.
uh, the next question, I think you already answered. I was going to ask, have you ever moved anywhere for someone? But you did. You moved to Philadelphia for someone. So,
I did, yeah.
have you moved multiple times, or was that a one time
That
experience,
what
mistake, whatever you want to call it?
No, I lived in New York for 13 years. I moved to Philadelphia for a relationship. It did not work out, but I'm so grateful that I tried because I still love that person very much. And it just, didn't work for us in that time. And then I moved to Provincetown, which was supposed to just be for 3 months. And that was 3 years ago, and I'm still here. So this is currently my home, which is like a little sort of like queer enclave on the tip of Cape Cod.
Very cool, very cool. And
Yeah.
yeah, the autobiographical nature of this story sems to kind of come full
Life
circle.
imitating art, imitating life.
But also the micro budget aspect as well. Just film where you
Yes.
know, and also where you have connections.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
um, when was the last time you watched Murder She Wrote?
Oh my God. Probably over the holidays with my mom. My mom loves Murder, She Wrote.
Okay, that
Um,
was such a random like show that I watched Murder She Wrote like religiously when I was a kid, and so I love that it kind of made its way into this movie.
yeah, it comes from an inside joke too about how like in Fire Island there's like really low budget, low access television, and for whatever reason, like any time of day if you turn on the TV, you'll probably find either The Golden Girls or Murder, She Wrote. So that's kind of where the joke spawned from. And then we were like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if he just like found comfort in watching this
Who wouldn't find comfort
TV
in
show?
that? Now, do you
Angela
subscribe?
Lansbury, finest. Yeah.
Yeah, rest her soul. She was amazing. Do you subscribe to the theory that it was actually was just what was her name? Jessica
Fletcher.
Fletcher, that she's actually the murderer? She's actually a serial killer, and then she just like
I
convinces other people
had
through her amazing detective work that they actually did it, and they are so like ashamed that they confess.
I have never heard that theory, but now I won't be able to watch another episode without thinking about that.
I mean, she knows exactly what happens, and she knows
It sounds
who
like
did
there's a
it.
reboot in store with Jessica Fletcher as a serial killer. I think we've hit something here.
Hey, look, let's option it. Let's go.
Okay, great.
um, Next question is, do you have a drag name? And if so, what is it?
Oh, I do have a drag name. So I had never done drag before this. And I started working in drag just to learn more about the world and everything. And so I have a terrible drag name.
All right.
My name's Todd, and my drag name is Tadana.
Ah,
Because I was showing a friend my new apartment in Philadelphia when I moved there, and we had a framed picture of this Stephen Meisel portrait of Madonna in this like fabulous like nude illusion costume. And I was showing my friend on FaceTime, and she was like, "Is that you in drag?" I was like, "No, that's Tadana." And she was like, "Oh, I thought it was Tadana." And I was like, "Oh my God, that's my drag name." So it's totally stupid. It makes no sense, but that's it.
I mean, that's a pretty good compliment. Like, you look like Madonna. That is and Madonna in her prime. That's a great compliment.
I'm gonna say that the FaceTime was pretty blurry at that point if she thought that I was Madonna in drag, but I will take it. Yeah.
Just take the compliment. The next question is, do you have straight friends?
Of course,
Okay.
yeah.
I wasn't sure given the film and some
I
of the
know, yeah, I
circles.
know it is funny. No, I do have a lot of queer friends, but I would say my two best friends are straight women, and hopefully in the next film I'll get to honor those relationships a little bit more.
In Chrissy Judy 2, or maybe this will just
Sure.
be
Yes, uh-huh.
Judy 2, and this is when she goes crazy and kills people in Murder She Wrote plot.
Oh my God, wow, okay. We're really
Interesting.
like we're really getting somewhere here. I'm gonna
True
start.
crime, true crime is so hot right now. I mean, like, you can,
Judy does true crime.
yeah.
That's that.
Next question is, when was the last time you were in Philadelphia?
Over the holidays. Two of my very good friends still live there, and they're executive producers on the film, and I will go and see them any chance I get. They're wonderful.
So, uh, what was your last summer job?
Oh, art imitating life, imitating art. I was a houseboy at an inn in Provincetown, so I would just clean the rooms all day.
And you were young enough to call yourself a houseboy? Is that the
Yes, I think we landed on houseboy, even though it didn't necessarily fit my age. It's just kind of there. Most inns in Provincetown will have a houseboy, so that's just what they're called. But I've met like 40 and 50-year-old houseboys, so yeah, it's just a title. It has nothing to do with someone's actual age.
they say you're only as old as you feel? So, or
Yes,
yeah, that's about right.
exactly.
Yeah.
And some of the old men in this town feel very young, and I love that.
Has anyone ever described you as a mess?
Hmm. I have, and people disagree with me. So no one in my life has ever described me as a mess. I'm pretty type A.
Mhm.
I'm very organized. I'm typically the person that everyone comes to ask how to do something. But in my brain, I'm like, oh my God, just keep it together.
You're just
Make
you
it
got
the end of the
yeah,
day.
you have so many plans. You're trying to get everything right that you're
Yeah.
overwhelmed with it. Yeah.
So I oftentimes feel like a mess, and I count on my friends and family to be like, "You're not a mess." So no one's ever described me as one, but I often describe myself as one.
You might you might describe yourself as a mess because you're a writer, director, and star in a micro budget movie. That
Yes,
could definitely
yeah,
lead to that.
it's very messy. Mhm.
And the last question is, do you have a person, like your person?
Mm. Yeah, I feel really lucky. I have a couple people who are really special to me, and I think what I love about what this film has taught me is that one person doesn't have to be your everything and shouldn't be your everything. Um, and so, yes, I have like three really, really, really important people in my life, and I fulfill something in their life, and they fulfill something in mine that other people don't. So yeah, I can't say that I have one person, but maybe someday soon I will have just one. But right now it's a couple, and I feel really grateful for that.
And when that happens, we can expect a new movie about that experience.
Oh God.
Finding Judy. We'll just go with that.
Yeah.
So I would like to really briefly talk about the ending. There will be spoilers here, but
Uh-huh.
I'll put a note and move this to the end so that people can watch it or not. So it's really interesting because I watched this with my wife, and at the end, like she was like, "Oh, it's such a sad ending." And I was like, "But I think it's a happy ending." And I don't like, where do you fall on this? Because I was like, "Yeah, he is kind of sad, but then now he has like found her voice, and she can like she is a full person, and
Mm.
also now she knows that Chrissy kind of like is still yearning for her, even though he doesn't say it. So like I wasn't sure where this fell on the spectrum for you. Did you think it was a happy ending, a sad ending, or maybe it's just an ending and that's just what it is?
Well, I actually love that you both had those separate reactions. That was my intention to be a little ambiguous. My intention is not to say happy or sad, and actually not even to say an ending, but to say, these two people are now um, on a boat, and they are about to go to two separate destinations physically, but they're together in this moment, honoring what they had. And I think that there's hope that there's a door open for communication for them in the future. I don't know that that will necessarily mean that their relationship will ever be what it was, but I think that's the beauty of friendship in general, is that, like, our friendships are always evolving. And if you allow friendships to have the grace to ebb and flow, I think that you can find a lot of beauty in those relationships as you come in, like, move in and move out of them.
Yeah, for sure. They just won't, probably communicate in Philadelphia, but maybe
Maybe
other
not.
place,
I don't
other
know.
fun place. Yeah.
That's perfect.
So the film is out on it's out already. It has a wide theatrical release on April 7th, 2023, and then it's coming to digital and DVD on April 11th, 2023. You're out
Mhm.
promoting it, getting the word out. I mean, it's getting fantastic reviews. It's a
Thank
wonderful
you.
film. But after people see Chrissy Judy, what can they look for next from you? Do you have any other projects in mind? Are you working on anything else?
I did a film in the fall with, I think I can say now, with Marissa Tomei and Bill
Oh,
Irwin, which was amazing. And so apparently that will be coming out in the next couple months, which is really exciting. Um, and then I'm just finished writing my next feature, so I'm hoping to get the ball rolling on maybe being in production for that in the next year or two. But I know how slow moving it is to make a feature, so um, I'm just taking it one day at a time.
that's that's all we can do. Right? That's
Yeah,
all we can do.
yeah,
Well, awesome. I'm looking forward to both of those. I'm looking forward to the next story out of your somewhat life, I guess, your somewhat life experiences. We'll go with that.
yeah,
So
yeah. Thank you
I
so
can,
much for having me on. This was great.
yeah, of course. So thanks so much for your time. This is Todd Flaherty, the writer, director, and star of Chrissy Judy. Check it out wherever you can. It is a fantastic film, and it is a very special one. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
That was Todd Flaherty, the writer, director, and star of Chrissy Judy, which had a wide theatrical release on April 7, 2023, and comes to DVD and digital on April 11, 2023. It is a wonderful coming-of-age story that has a fantastic title, plenty of drama, and a really strong performance in all aspects by Todd Flaherty. If you like this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.